Okay, Councillor Graham, I can confirm
Yep.
that we are now broadcasting live
Thank you
through
very much.
YouTube, and it is 6:30.
Yeah, thank you very much. And can I welcome all members and members of the public to this meeting on the Council on Wednesday, the 24th March. And can I, first of all, actually congratulate Reverend Kevin Ashby on that wonderful reflection and renewal service that he organised last night. And I would like to assure everybody he wasn't on holiday in Scotland, those of you who watched it, that wonderful Heather scene behind you. But Kevin, thank you very much for that. And I hope you're feeling better. And can I ask you to offer prayers?
Yeah, the prayer I'd like to use is a version of the one that we used yesterday when we opened the Memorial Glade yesterday afternoon. So let's pray. So at this time of reflection, we look back on a year where many things have changed and people's lives and relationships have been in turmoil because of the pandemic. We remember all those who have died in the last 12 months, those who have been separated from loved ones. We give thanks for and honour key workers, volunteers and so many people in our communities who have selflessly sacrificed their time and skills in the service of others in need. We offer to you our work as borough councillors, giving our support to the folk in our communities. We pray that we might continue to work for a brighter and safer future, where fear of the virus has become a thing of the past and our caring for one another may continue. And we can once again have hope in the years before us. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Kevin, thank you very much for doing that. And if I can continue, this meeting is being run as a remote conference on Zoom. Any member participating by remote link who declares an interest in any item of business in terms which requires them to leave the room must ensure they cannot be seen or heard during the agenda item. This shall be confirmed by Democratic Services. This member of staff will thereafter confirm to the remote member when they may rejoin the meeting. Should any aspect of a conference link fail during this meeting, I will call a short adjournment of up to 5 minutes to determine whether the link can be quickly re-established. If the link cannot be re-established, the meeting should be adjourned to a later date. In the event of link failure for individual members, a remote member or members will be deemed to have left the meeting at the point of failure of the equipment. And if the link cannot be re-established before the end of the meeting, then the presumption will be that the meeting should be continued to deal with the item, providing a meeting remains quorate. Should the meeting no longer be quorate, the meeting shall be adjourned and any remaining items of business will be deferred. If individual members' link is successfully re-established from the remote, members will be deemed to have returned at that point of re-establishment. I would ask members to indicate their wish to speak by raising their hand using a raise hand function on Zoom. With support from Democratic Services, I will then invite each member in turn to make their contribution to the debate. For my guidance, I have asked Democratic Services to time speeches and advise us when there is 1 minute left. And 1 minute allocated time to left and when the time has expired. I'd be grateful if they could do that. All microphones will remain on mute at all times except mine and those of relevant officers. Members may unmute themselves when invited to speak, and all microphones will be unmuted before proceeding to a vote. Before proceeding to a vote, I will ensure that all members and officers have no further comments by confirming with Democratic Services that no hands are raised. If any member wishes to raise a point of order, the member should unmute themselves and clearly state their name, followed by point of order, i.e. Councillor X, point of order, Mr. Mayor. I will then ask the member to specify the point of order that they wish to raise. Any member who's been absent from the debate due to connection failure must abstain from the vote. Please turn your mobile phones to silent and note the meeting will be recorded and live streamed on YouTube. Thank you. We start with apologies for absence. We have Councillor Bindloss. Have we got any other apologies for absence?
We have Councillor Baines as well, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Baines, thank you very much. The minutes
Mayor.
of the meeting.
Mr. Mayor,
Sorry,
is
yes,
Simon
Councillor
Lumley,
Potter.
is Simon Lumley connected?
I don't know. I can't see his name.
No,
Because-
no,
No, he's-
Councillor
no.
Lumley is not connected.
He sends his apologies. He's having problems with his internet. He's waiting for BT to come out and sort his internet out. So he sends his apologies.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll note them. Minutes of the meeting of the 24th of February. And I look for a mover. Councillor Orson, will you move? And Councillor Higgins, will you second?
Very happy to move the minutes, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
And likewise,
Councillor
Mr. Mayor. Yep, thank you.
Great, thank you. Now, I have been noted that Councillor Evans might like to make a statement. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Please go ahead. Yeah.
Could I just say that obviously I went through the minutes, but I've also been through, thanks to Natasha, the YouTube presentation. I wish to make it clear that in no way am I implying any failure upon the officers in the work that they're doing. There obviously is a big issue with the ransom strip and lake totes, which I pointed out. We now have some clarification, and the clarification is clearly that one was viewing it as a commercial opportunity, and the other, the county council that is, and the other one, ourselves, was viewing it as social housing. Hence the estimates were way off. Luckily, I guessed them correct on both counts. And I just would plea at this stage again to Councillor Orson to try, and the leader of this council, to try and sort out, we've seen the emails, the horrendous situation between.
Really, it was just correction more than a statement.
Yeah, well, I was just making the statement, which is to say that my concern still is the relationship between the county and the borough council is appalling. And this kind of back and forth just has to stop if we're going to get anywhere with any future negotiation.
That is fine, as long as it was really
Thank you.
just a comment on the minutes where they were, because although it wasn't minuted, it is on YouTube, and we just wanted to give you a chance to correct that.
Well, that's what I was
Thank you
commenting on,
very
Mr. Mayor.
The
Thank you.
minutes have been proposed, seconded. All those in favour? Any against? Do you see any hands against? In which case that is carried. Thank you very much. Declarations of interest. To invite to make a declaration, members can indicate, declare by using the raise hand function. We will take it as read as a personal interest in respect of county councillors Orson, Pearson and Posnett is taken as being on record for any matters which relate to Leicestershire County Council. So any other matters of interest? Thank you. Mayor's announcements. This has normally been rather a quick part because
Mr. Mayor,
actually, Mayor,
Mr. Mayor, can I just
yes, sorry.
Councillor Brown has his hands up
Yes.
before you moved on to this item.
Right, Councillor Brown, well, I can't see him, but
Yeah,
Councillor Brown?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
I would like to declare a personal and pecuniary interest in item number 11 on the pay policy after taking some advice from the monitoring officer due to my wife being employed by Melton Borough Council. And just as a finish, just to make everybody aware, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Higgins has got his hand up also.
I can just see it. Yeah, thank you very much, Councillor Brown. Councillor Higgins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a question which will have an answer which will involve business grants, which could involve members in terms of businesses that they're part of, or even clubs or other services. But I don't intend on bringing them anything specific, but I just wanted to declare that here, that I will be talking about business grants, but I won't be touching on anything specific, which may invite members' interests.
Thank you very much. I just looked at the Chief Executive. There are various ones of us who are connected with village halls and sports halls and things who have been the beneficiary of grants. You don't expect us at this stage to declare an interest.
No, I given the suggestion from Councillor Higgins that we won't be referring to specifics. I don't think there's an issue. If any specifics were referred to, we could deal with them at that time.
Thank you very much. All right, any other hands raised? No, mayor's announcements. Most of this past civic year, there's been little to say under mayor's announcements, and things are not that much different now. This might well be the last normal council meeting of my tenure. And I'd like to say, rather as spring seems to have woken up the world, the mayoral role is coming back to life again. I hope that you have seen the Reflections and Renewal service, or some of you will have done, that came from St Mary's under the brilliant guidance of the Reverend Kevin Ashby. And leaving aside Councillor Higgins and myself, there were some truly heartfelt messages from those connected with Melton's life and the difficulties that they faced. The main message that I took away was how lucky we are to live in such an amazing community where everyone has pulled together over the last year. To lower the tone, I'm afraid you might well see on You've Been Framed my attempts to plant a tree in the country park. It was a lovely idea to plant a glade in memory of all that people have been through over the last year. I'm afraid that in the wind, I lost my notes. Trying to recover the situation, I dropped the tree. And I well remember being shouted instructions, "The man used to keep going, you were being streamed live." Anyway, all those involved, including our ground maintenance team, did an amazing job. And what will be a fantastic asset for the country park was blessed by the Reverend Ashby. And my tree was planted and did not look too traumatized by my efforts. So thank you to all concerned. With that, I move on to leaders' announcements. Mr. Leader.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And congratulations on the planting of the tree. It was well received by the community. That's the feedback I'm getting back. So obviously, because it has made the media. Surprisingly, it's only been a month since our last meeting, Mr. Mayor. So I'll keep my update relatively brief this evening. I was obviously delighted that we set our budget last month, balanced for the second year in a row, and we can now get on with continuing to lead the COVID response and recovery, as well as delivering our priorities set out in our corporate strategy. I have to start by acknowledging the anniversary of the first national lockdown yesterday, as we reflect and remember the many lives lost and the many lives impacted. I want to once again pay my own personal tribute to the incredible work done by this council over the last year, as well as all other key workers and volunteers who have supported our communities throughout this period. As you know, Mr. Mayor, we have now seen a rise in COVID cases in Melton over the last week or so. It's worth reminding ourselves that this rise follows some significant reductions over the last couple of months, and that Melton has, for most of this year, been the area in Leicestershire with the lowest number of cases. Having said that, things have changed in the last week, and although a number of the cases are linked to specific workplace outbreaks, we cannot rule out broader transmission. We all need to continue to play our part, follow the public health advice, and not be complacent. If you are invited to receive a vaccine, I would encourage everyone to take it up. Last month, if you remember, Mr. Mayor, I touched upon the disappointing conduct of the County Council leader and cabinet at their meeting of the 5th of February. And I do know Councillor Evans' comments about the relationship between this borough and the County Council. And I can guarantee Councillor Evans, it does take two to tango, and Melton Borough Council would like to dance. But their criticism of this council in relation to a land deal, they didn't properly understand, and that we were perfectly entitled to reach was a shallow and ill-judged attempt to destabilise as we negotiate with them on the Relief Road infrastructure agreement. Subsequent leaks of inflated and unrealistic valuations made their tactics even more obvious, and I was delighted our position was vindicated through independent professional assessments we obtained. Mr. Mayor, I would again encourage the leadership of the County Council to focus on working to secure the required infrastructure for Melton, rather than playing games and wasting time. In relation to the infrastructure agreement itself, we continue to negotiate with the County Council alongside Homes England and MHCLG. Melton Borough Council has been completely consistent throughout this process. We remain committed to reaching an agreement which supports the road, but have made it absolutely clear, Mr. Mayor, that any agreement has to have appropriate legal and financial protections so neither authority is exposed. This is both reasonable and entirely necessary. Something we and our legal team have repeatedly made clear to the County Council, as well as highlighting how it could be achieved. We stand ready to enter into any legally sound and financially sensible agreement, but ultimately it is up to the County Council to listen to the advice they have received and to agree something that works for all parties. On other matters, the recruitment for our new Director for Housing and Communities has started, and I am looking forward to meeting the candidates as we move through the process. As this is Andrew Cotton's last council meeting, I want to once again place on record my thanks for his hard work over the last year and wish him well for the future. As we await our new director's arrival, I was delighted to support the recent recruitment for our interim assistant director for communities and want to congratulate Aisha Rahman on securing the role and also to welcome Craig Spence, our new assistant director for housing management, who joined us only last week. Earlier this month, the Chief Executive and I held one of our regular liaison meetings with regional and national NFU representatives. We have a really strong relationship with our farming community, and we talked about the impacts of the sector relating to COVID and our exit from the EU, how Melton Borough Council is offering support and how we can work together to tackle shared issues like fly tipping. We also discussed our work to support COVID recovery and the launch of the Food Enterprise Centre and the Discovery Melton website, something that they are very, very keen to support. Finally, Mr. Mayor, as we enter the pre-election period from tomorrow, I want to offer a few words of support to our elections team, who will once again be facing an extremely busy period over the coming weeks. Running elections is a council-wide operation with hundreds of people involved, and particularly this year, the challenges of running a COVID-secure election are significant. I know our team will do a great job to serve local democracy, and I want to thank them for all their efforts. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Leader. Councillor Holmes, I see you've got your hand up. Did you want to say anything?
I did, and it was right at the beginning when we were talking about COVID and having the vaccination. As you know, I have had COVID, and I had my vaccination 3 weeks after I came out of hospital, which I was told when I was in hospital was too soon. They said at least 6 weeks. Anyway, things went on and everything seemed to be all right until about a fortnight ago when I started feeling ill again. In fact, less than a fortnight. And thank goodness I got to a doctor that I know who said that nobody, and I just want it so that the public know about this, that nobody should have, if they have had COVID, they should not have their vaccinations until at least 5 to 6 weeks after they have either come out of hospital or recovered. Because I'd got thousands of things tearing about in my body. I probably got a cold or something, which is COVID anyway. So it hasn't been a very pleasant experience, but I just thought that people ought to know that. So please, if you have had COVID, do not have your vaccination until at least 5 to 6 weeks afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Holmes. We received a notice of a question from a member of the public in accordance with procedure rules on public questions set out on the agenda. I will invite Ms. Kelly Davis to read her question. Please bring Ms. Davis through into the meeting as a participant so that she may read her question.
I'm just
Natasha, can you
bringing
bring
Ms.
her through?
Davis through now. Okay. Hopefully Ms. Davis can hear and see us.
Miss Davis can hear and see you both fine.
Hello, yes, I can see you as well. Welcome to the meeting. And could you please read your question? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It is Mr, isn't it? Just with the quality data, that always helps to double check. My question for today's council is this. With a clear roadmap for leisure and hospitality industries in place and as moving closer to that restriction-free summer, what initiatives and ideas does the council have in place to help attract both locals and tourists to Melton's Purple Flag nightlife to enable them to be in the best stead to recover and grow after the pandemic?
Kelly, thank you very much for asking that. And I will now ask the Deputy Leader, Councillor Higgins, to give us an answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Kelly. Yeah, it seems as if all your questions keep coming to me. So the officers to do, Kelly, is the response I have is very comprehensive, and I don't want to necessarily go through it all. But what I have agreed with the officers is you will get the full response in writing. Also, we would look to put it onto our website, and all councillors will have a written copy as well. But I'll try and give, as brief as I can, some of the synopsis that I feel will be relevant to your question for today. So the local economy in Melton is dominated, as you rightly said, by sectors such as tourism, retail, leisure and hospitality, which have particularly been adversely impacted by the restrictions and that have been in place for the past year. Following the easing of each lockdown, the council has undertaken a significant amount of collaborative work, working with the Business Improvement District, which is the Melton BID, as well as the Melton Mowbray Town Estate, for safe reopening of various sectors of our economy in the town and the evening economy as well. Also, as you are aware of, we have also hosted some webinars, and you're more than welcome when we host any of those in the future as well. In terms of business grants, a significant part of the council's effort to support the economic recovery has been in the distribution of grant money provided by the government in a timely way where those businesses that needed it most. Since November 2020, which was the second lockdown, over £5 million has been paid out across 8 schemes to over 600 businesses, on top of the £10.7 million given out during the first lockdown between March and June. The council has looked how it can support businesses during the recovery period and is currently looking how it can introduce a comprehensive package to support our economy over the next year. A report is due to be considered by Cabinet in April 2021 to approve this package and a wide-ranging measures designed to support our local economy. Just on that is today I have received representation from the barber and hairdressing sector, and that will be considered. And also, which is quite a lot of landlords have written to me in this past week about grant funding for them. So the government has just announced a restart grant, and that is online at the moment. And businesses that have a rateable value of £15,000 or under could secure up £8,000 of a restart grant. I encourage everyone to look through the qualifying criteria accordingly. There are a series of other grants the government has mentioned in that document as well. And again, Melton Borough Council will probably put that on its website very shortly. In specifically to the town centre, Kelly, the council has allocated £50,000 for town centre enhancements. It has been something that councillors from the election of 2019 have campaigned on, and through COVID couldn't come through last year. On top of that, the government has announced what is called a Welcome Back grant. And for Melton specifically, we have received very recently, the amount of that allocation is £45,000, which I think the Mayor may touch on just after I finish this answer. So in total, we have about £95,000 to support the experience of the High Street as we move forward. Just touching on that, Leicestershire County Council have also launched, and it's now closed now, their transport strategy for the Melton Town Centre, of what this council is looking to partner with businesses and the stakeholders I mentioned earlier in regards to making the High Street more friendly for people to enjoy and get the experience from. Now, that's obviously a consultation at the moment, so a lot of work still to go. To support the reopening of outdoor hospitality, which goes to the heart of your question, Melton Borough Council has supported measures ever since the first lockdown. And in step 2 of the government's roadmap, which is no earlier than the 12th of April, hospitality venues will be allowed to serve people outdoors, and the measures to support safe reopening of hospitality businesses. What Melton Borough Council, we were the first council to announce right at the start, when these venues were allowed to open outdoors, is for the introduction of relaxation of measures where pubs, restaurants and hospitality venues can host temporary structures such as marquees to increase the floor space of maybe their car parks, and also any al fresco dining which has gone onto the public highway as well. And any of those businesses, I believe, can do that still right now until the end of the year, where Melton Borough Council will not require any planning permission. The government has made announcements since, but Melton Borough Council has been leading on that and will always lead and be, if not the same, but will be certainly better than any government dictation on how we can encourage our businesses there. On outdoor marking, we're looking at temporary right to extend this to March 2022. That allows local authorities, either by themselves, so Melton Borough Council, or others on our behalf, to use land and hold a market without having to apply for planning permission. Takeaways, we're looking for measures to support restaurants, drinking establishments such as pubs, cafes, and to serve takeaway food when they otherwise were closed due to coronavirus restrictions, which has been extended to March 2022. Just on that, Kelly, it was news to a lot of our councillors, and myself included, that some pubs, for example, did not have planning permission for takeaway services, but you will know most pubs did offer a takeaway service anyway. It isn't our intention ever to have this measure reintroduced. So that's a good thing since COVID. There was a whole raft of measures on here, Kelly, regarding tourism related activity. I won't go through them all, but it's a comprehensive 8-point step here. And this will be published online. But it will show how we're looking to lead back into Melton. And just to talk about how we're doing that, is we've got the Rural Diversification Grant. We're trying to get more overnight bed accommodation in the town and also the rural area where people can enjoy and stay over the night. One thing which councillors have had an email on, but the Director for Growth and Regeneration and myself, along with the Reverend Kevin Ashby and a few other stakeholders, have held initial discussions at the moment to celebrate the Queen's Platinum Jubilee in 2022. At the moment, this is just initial discussions, but I know a lot of people and stakeholders were working on a VE Day celebration last year, which could not happen. So a lot of the work that has gone ahead, and we will be working on that in the future and making some announcements on that. So the council is very serious at holding events back in the town. And I think the whole community can look forward to 2022, probably with not the difficulties and the confidence that we can do to hold a good event. Through this work, we will support both the delivery of the Melton's Destination Management Plan and wider Leicester and Leicestershire Tourism Growth Plan to ensure that there is a greater cohesion by working together and support our wider area. This approach will ensure that we help promote the work that we're doing when promoting the area nationally, which is also important, and get Melton's message out to a wider audience. Just to wrap up on this, Kelly, what Melton is very famous for is its pork pies and Stilton, but we're not just about pork pies and Stilton, as you know. We've got some young, vibrant people out there I know that you speak to and you inform the council quite a lot of, and we want to get to the heart of that. So investment in places such as our country park, trying to help those tourist businesses, and to try and get something where young people as well can enjoy Melton, which is, as your heart of your question is alluding to. Just on that, and as people have talked about a bit earlier, It is vital this council does anything more on there is supporting people to higher disposable incomes. And things that have been announced in the budget that many of the councillors on this call today have lobbied at the government, including our MP, to keep costs down. And we've seen that with a further freeze for the 11th year of fuel duty, but also with housing costs as well. And that's why this council is committed to affordable housing within the town and the rural area to make sure young people like you to get on a housing ladder, and that most of your income does not go on high rent or high mortgage payments. And the more money you have in your pocket, Kelly, the more, and I'll be very much welcome to see you either in the Montero Lounge or the Harbour Hotel or all the other fantastic restaurants and eateries that we have to enjoy that evening economy. But the more money you have in your pocket, the more you can spend and enjoy your youth in Melton Town. And I hope that's a comprehensive answer for you, and I welcome any supplementary. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Higgins. Thank you very much, Kelly, for the question. And have you got a supplementary which you would like to ask, Councillor Higgins?
Obviously you did say you didn't go into details, but you were saying about this 8-point plan as far as the tourism goes. I know obviously you can't go into detail, but could you possibly at the very least explain what specific points of that tourism plan link into getting those tourists into the town for that nightlife element, which obviously was a big portion of the question that I asked to begin with.
Okay, yeah, it wasn't trying to avoid thank you, Mr. Mayor, sorry. Wasn't trying to avoid the question, but there's an 8-point plan. You will have the full written response on all those 8 points. I'll just take some of the highlights from them. And again, this will be displayed on our webpage. So we're working obviously in partnership with the town centre stakeholders to retain our purple flag, which I know the Mayor holds very, very dear to your heart, Mr. Mayor, and he's a great champion of that for the evening economy. He even told me a story when he opened a nightclub when you were the previous Mayor, I think you were saying earlier today. MBC also will be launching a new place-based website which is called Discover Melton in April. And this will promote and attract people to visit and invest to raise the profile of Brand Melton, the rural capital of food as a destination. This will be supported by an interactive map listing tourism, related businesses, visitor attractions, food and drink, experiences, events, places to stay, all within the borough. The map will be digital, allowing us to update information accordingly with links and businesses and their websites and their social media pages. MBC will market cultural, immersive experiences, themes and stories to be brought to life through what people can run businesses and live in their community. And we have seen some great awards that have come in, for Kettleby Lakes. The Stag and Hounds on Borough on the Hill have just had a Michelin award that has been given to it. And there's plenty of other places on the Good Food Guide and the Great Taste Guide that is coming through. I'm just going to go down to point 6, you will see when the answer is given to you. We will continue to work closely with partners across the promotion and in a joint campaign with Visit Leicester, place and marketing with our neighbouring boroughs to extend the reach across Leicestershire. Because while some people may want to stay in Melton, they may want to visit somewhere in Harborough or to go to Bradgate Park, for example. Or equally, if somebody wants to stay in Blaby, they might want to come and see how a pork pie is made or to come to visit the cattle market. So if you can increase the Leicestershire economy, and what's good for Leicestershire is certainly good for Melton. As I say, this is a comprehensive written statement, Kelly, and if there are any other questions after this, you're more than welcome to email me at lhiggins@melton.gov.uk, or and I'm happy to host you on a Zoom call and we can talk that through as well.
Brilliant, because I've been asking you I've been sending you a couple of emails reference to date, so I look forward to you getting back to me with that date.
Great, Kelly, thank you very much for asking questions and very interesting replies as well. So now you will be moved back to the attendees, I'm told. So Natasha, can you do that, or Catherine?
Yes, I've moved Ms. Davis back as an attendee.
Anyway, thank you very much, Kelly. Right. Number 7, questions from members. There were no questions received. Number 8, motions on notice. There were none. Cabinet recommendations to receive a report from the Cabinet and Community Safety Partnership and Strategic Plan. So all the way from Australia, Councillor Pearson, could you please provide a brief introduction to this report?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Louise. Well, I'd like to recommend that the Council approves the proposed community safety strategy for 2021 to 24. All of us, all the members here and some of the public will be aware at some time, and particularly members will get lots of calls regarding antisocial behaviour. And in general, Melton's a really cohesive, great place to live, but it only takes a few to spoil that, as we all know. And antisocial behaviour is one of the issues that this community safety strategy deals with. Antisocial behaviour, we don't tolerate. It's not acceptable. And so we have this document and policies in place to challenge it and to stamp it out, because it doesn't help the community. It doesn't at all support a cohesive public. This document also looks at a number of areas, and I'd like to point some of them out. Another one is domestic violence. Domestic violence is unacceptable, but it's not just the violence of physical, it is also the mental violence and the psychological violence that will be caused in some of these relationships that we want to stamp out, we want to challenge. To that, I've just had a report, and I've mentioned it earlier, in regard to the perpetrator programme, and it's quite exciting that we've started, and already we've had two people refer to it. The perpetrator programme deals with the perpetrator, and it's up and running. We should be targeting at least 12 people a year, so it's worthwhile if we can solve 12 issues in the town. That's 12 less issues of domestic violence, which I think is very important. Bullying is not acceptable. Bullying, or in the sense of people living next door to each other. I've been dealing with a case personally with a young person that's an individual that's different, that has been bullied, that's trying to come out the house. He's been called, he's been physically attacked, and we've managed that. We've had a team of people onto that. I'm regularly on the case. There's appearance as well. That is not acceptable. So we need policies and structures to deal with it. Again, it's not acceptable. So these are the sort of issues that go on, and like I say, that they're not all that common, but when they happen, they're not acceptable. The other issue that we've all talked about, and it's been brought up by a number of members, both in the town and both in the villages, is drugs. The issue of drugs, sadly, is around us, it's within us, and again, we need to challenge it, we need to fight it, we need to target it, and this is part of the policy. This is what we're trying to do. We have an excellent relationship with the community's CSPs, and we work with the partnerships and with the county. We work well with the police, and we continue to do so. But we need a structure, and again, this community safety strategy, this is what it does, and this is what it supports. So the partnership consists of a range of agencies committed to the reduction of crime, antisocial behaviour, alongside impacting on social and economic drivers for the communities. The partnership provides coordinated service delivery to address issues of crime and disorder, including antisocial behaviour, and also addressing wider community safety issues of deprivation, vulnerability, engagement and services, and including speeding and etc. The Community Safety Partnership Strategic Plan seeks to reset the relationship between the communities and partnership agencies, and has been written to link closely with the Council's corporate strategy, in particular Priority 6, connected and led by our community, and the Priority Neighbourhood Agenda. One thing we've improved and really be excellent at is the narrative approach, listening and talking to our residents, and we get better at it all the time. And I constantly now get feedback saying, thank you for listening. And I think we're becoming an excellent listening council. And I think that's very special. The plan is based on a range of data and information, including crime and disorder information, and the strategic plans of the OPCC and the Leicestershire County Council. A public consultation was undertaken in January and February 2020. This consisted of an online survey and workshops undertaken across the borough. It provided clear direction to focus the partnership's resource on 5 key areas, and I've already mentioned them. One of the top of the list, of course, was drug-related crime, road safety, violent crime, including domestic abuse, cybercrime, and improved communication. The partnership recognises the need to engage with communities and stakeholders on a more effective basis using a narrative approach. Upon approval of this strategy, an annual community safety action plan will be compiled and reviewed by the partnership to allow focused action and resource deployment for the forthcoming year. Outcomes will be tracked and reported to the scrutiny committee on an annual basis. We did start the meeting regarding our relationship with the county council, with the CSP and with the Police Crime Commission. I can say there is a good relationship. We work well together, and the perpetrator program is one example where we got funding, we matched it, and it's an excellent program. So I do seek that all the members here tonight support the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Pearson. Councillor Orson, would you like to second that?
Yeah, very pleased to second, Mr. Mayor, and I'll withhold any comments until later.
Right. Would anyone like to speak on it? Or any questions? I can't see anyone.
It looks like you do, Mr. Mayor. Oh, sorry.
Hang on, I've got a hand up. Councillor Douglas.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, this topic came up at the Scrutiny Committee also, on which I am a member, on the 2nd of March this year, and the police inspector in charge attended too, which was wonderful. The talk really came to life. I'm pleased to see on page 30 that Melton is statistically, and I'm quoting, a safe place to live with low crime and disorder levels. So that is very reassuring. And I am in favour of this proposal, by the way. And I also on page 30 noted that every 3 years the partnership is required to produce a 3-year community safety plan, and that each year a strategic assessment is undertaken to revise the plan and the community safety priorities. So I do think that this type of regular review is important, and I'm really pleased to see a yearly review there. Otherwise 3 years can go by and sometimes things desperately need updating during that kind of time frame. Page 35, I was a little disappointed to read that there's been a recent increase in violent crime statistics in Melton, but really pleased, however, to see that a violence reduction network has been established to address these issues across Leicestershire and specifically Melton. So once again, another tick for me as regards this proposal. And also pleased to see that cybercrime gets a mention, because it's an area of growing concern to us all. It's on the increase, and there is going to be a focus amongst the young and vulnerable groups. So again, another very pleasing indication. And finally, page 36, I was impressed and somewhat surprised to see the number of organisations working together in Melton, in the Melton area, to reduce crime and disorder totals 22. And that was quite astounding, so very reassuring. So yes, I will be supporting this evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Douglas. Councillor Chandler, you've got your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've always supported the Melton Safer Community Partnership ever since I've been a member of the council. But if I can just make one point, on page 36, the partners that Councillor Douglas has just referred to, I see it mentions parish councils. I wonder if all the parish councils are aware that they can tap into the Safer Communities Partnership, because I sit in at parish council meetings, as many of the rural members do, and they often seem to be stuck for who they should go to when there are say the drug situation's deteriorated. We've had an absolute spate of fly tipping this weekend. I know of at least 4 sites where we've had massive fly tipping. Not that the community partnership can do much about that. But in the north of Melton, we've lost our police constable. She's not been replaced at this stage, which I think is detrimental. We have an excellent PCSO, but she can't really cover the whole of the north of the borough, and particularly Bottisford, in a car. And that's all really her only asset is the car. And I do think it would be a good idea if some publicity could be sent to the parish councils in the whole of the borough to just alert them to the fact of the work the Safe Community Partnership does. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Chandler. I totally agree with you. Councillor Pearson, would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, no, I've done a bit of work with Prue. Prue's quite right. We did mention to improve communication. I would like to say that what we did do with the members, and we initiated a facilitated meeting with all the groups that you've seen in the plan, and it was fantastic. And the important issue was that we didn't want it just a national or a Leicestershire. We wanted the first focus, what's happening to Melton, because what happens in Melton is not necessarily what happens in Harborough or Blaby. So we wanted it to be Melton based, but also accepting there is issues that spread throughout the county that are similar in every ward, every area, and at the same time there's national aspects to the programme that we can tap into as well. That happen everywhere in the country. But the initial focus of our meeting to help plan this was Melton based, and a great facilitated meeting that went really well. When it was mentioned about the additional violence, sadly, that is a figure there, but I think that's a lot to do with the lockdown, and sadly that I think that's a national statistic as well, where that sadly the lockdown has proved that there's been a little bit more high violence in certain areas. But in general, it's been a very positive programme, and we do work well together. I'd just like to support that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Posnet.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Again, talking about non-statutory agencies who work with the police and the Safety Community Partnership, I will first of all declare my interest as being chair of the directors at Melton Hub. But Melton Hub do a lot of work with young people throughout the borough, and they've been able to facilitate premises for the police to meet with young people, to talk with the issues that are affecting young people. And there are 2 schemes that have worked. One has been knife crime, and the other one has been talking to young people to try and stop them actually getting into the offending programme, so that they can understand what's happening in their lives, and they can talk things through. And I think that the huge benefit to this and for young people is because it's a facility that they can call theirs, and it's not like going to a police station or coming into the council offices for a meeting. And I think that's something that's very beneficial to young people, and long may it continue.
Thank you, Councillor Posnet. Councillor Olsen, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I don't think there's anyone else indicating they want to come in after me. So just to say just a few words about the Community Safety Partnership. As Alan and Ronan both well know, I've been massively involved with community safety partnerships for a long, long time, actually. I think, going from memory, and Ed will nod yes or no, I think it was effectively John Smith, the former Labour leader, who came up with the idea at the same time as police authorities of community safety partnerships and introduced them. I have to say police authorities work well, and so does the community safety partnerships. They tend to be made up of strategy partners. In our case, the county council lead on it. They do a great job. They pull all the information, as I think Alan said, together, and they send the indicators out to their partners, obviously Melton Borough and the other 6 districts, but the NHS are also involved. The what was formerly called the probation service, the OPCC, fire service. But like I say, it does tend to be organised by LCC, but it is localised through each district. Like I say, it's worked really, really well over the years. I think they've improved again, actually, since Willie Barks came in as well. He's given it his particularly attention, from the OPCC officers to get involved with the CSPs. So I'm over the moon, actually, looking at the plan. Obviously, many challenges out there for them. And just to remind members, I think it's about 4 years ago, the Melton Times ran a headline front page that Melton was the safest place to live in the UK, or in England at least anyway. The following year, about the same time of year, the next headline was crime was up 23%. But that's what happens when you have a very low base of crime, like Jeannie was saying. One crime is one crime too many, but overall we live in I'm going to say a relatively safer place. That's how I'll put it. But like I say, one crime is one too many then, Mr. Mayor. So very pleased to formally second the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Alston. Councillor Holmes, I see you've got your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just thought you would all like to know that Melton Young Farmers and the county have carried on having meetings via Zoom, and they have been having public speaking competitions. They have done all sorts of things. It has been incredibly difficult, but they have continued. It isn't very good for them not to be able to meet, but they have their initiative, has their own initiative. These young people have done it all themselves, and I think they want to be commended. One young lady from Scorford, one of the secretary and one of the leading lights, has worked tirelessly, has the chair and all of them. And I just think they want commending, because it's something that has been very difficult for all of them all this year, but they have tried and tried to carry on. That's all. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. It's a wonderful organisation. Councillor Pearson, anything you want to add?
No, great feedback from there, Elaine. I think it's all these organisations, bring them together. It's teamwork. Pam's dead right. A fantastic job. When you see all this, you can sit back and go, we're very proactive in Melton. We've got some great programmes, and sometimes we don't even notice them are that good. They're just going on. People get on with it, and it makes such a difference. I can guarantee if those programmes stop, we would be in a bit of a mess. They do a fantastic job, and I think we should continue to support them and get out there and educate people to look at them and support them. And there's so much good work going in Melton. May it continue.
Thank you very much, Councillor Pearson. I can't see any other hands. I will now hand over to the Chief Executive to take the vote.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members, as previously, if I can ask you to indicate whether you are for, against or abstaining, please. Councillor Baines is absent. Councillor Bindloss is absent. Councillor Brown.
For.
Councillor Carter.
For.
Councillor Chandler.
For.
Councillor Child.
For.
Councillor Cumbers.
For.
Councillor de Burl. Councillor de Burl.
Oh, sorry about that.
Thank you. Councillor Douglas.
For.
Councillor Evans.
For.
Councillor Faulkner.
For.
Councillor Fisher.
For.
Councillor Freer Jones.
For.
Councillor Glancy.
For.
Councillor Graham.
For.
Councillor Hewson.
For.
Councillor Higgins.
For.
Councillor Holmes.
For.
Councillor Illingworth. Councillor Illingworth.
Sorry, just unmuted myself. For.
Thank you. Councillor Lumley is absent. Councillor Alston.
For.
Councillor Pearson.
For.
Councillor Posnett.
For.
Councillor Pritchett.
For.
Councillor Smith is absent. I understand. Councillor Steadman.
For.
Councillor Wilkinson.
For.
Councillor Wood.
For.
Mr. Mayor, that is 24 4.
Thank you very much. That is carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Item 10, the annual equalities report. Councillor Freer-Jones will move and provide a brief introduction to the report. Have we got Councillor Freer-Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report provides the annual update to Council on the progress against our equality objectives and the work undertaken to meet our public sector equality duty. Members will be aware that the Council publishes a single equality scheme which covers all our legal duties as required by the Equality Act 2010 and sets out the Council objectives and approach to advancing equality and diversity, fostering good relations in tackling discrimination, harassment and victimisation. The current scheme was approved by Council in December 2019 and covers the period 2020 to 2024. Any review of the last 12 months, of course, cannot ignore the impact of COVID-19. The redirection of resources to respond to the pandemic has impacted on the actions we had planned, although we have maintained good progress, not least in our commitment to undertaking equality impact assessments on our services. COVID-19 has also demonstrated the health inequalities that exist, with people from the BME communities twice as likely to die from a COVID-19 infection. This highlights the importance of our work as a public body and community leader in addressing inequalities. I'm sure we will remember this Council adopting an anti-racism motion in July 2020, reaffirming the Council's commitment to promoting equality and fairness for all and condemning any and all forms of racism. That motion will feed into this year's work stream. Looking forward, we are likely to see significant and fundamental changes in the way we must deliver equalities work within the government's new Fight for Fairness aims and principles, with a move away from being the focus on protected characteristics and focus on freedom, choice, opportunity, and individual humanity and dignity. Whatever the future developments, the Council will, of course, continue to fulfil its duties and responsibilities in a way that is sensitive to the needs of our communities. And you must forgive me for being a little bit late with putting forward. I would just like to propose this report and be really grateful if somebody could put forward what the actual recommended part is, please.
The recommendation is the Council notes and comments as appropriate on the progress made in meeting the Council's equalities, duties and commitments as outlined in this report. There is this is purely a matter to note, there's no vote is going to be taken.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I really appreciate that.
Councillor Alston, will you second?
Yes, I'm very pleased to second the motion at number 1 to note and comment. I haven't really got anything to add to what Alison's just said, but it is the two highlights of the report is how COVID has exposed inequality. It really is dramatic when you take yourself back 12 months ago, and how even by July, I remember COVID was exposing inequalities and many other issues, but I think inequalities was the first one that COVID really did expose, and to a national way as well. I also just got to mention something that Alison's also said, but I was massively proud of this Council when we did pass the anti-racism motion, July 2020 by this. Going from memory, I think it was a unanimous vote. It was a very proud moment for myself as a leader that the whole Council supported that motion. Nothing else to say at all, Malise, it's all in there, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I've got no raised hands. Have I? I look around to see. Yes, I have. Councillor Douglas.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I note that this report is a requirement for the Council to complete under the Equality Act of 2010 and the Human Rights Act of 1998, namely the Council's single equality scheme. And I do consider that it appropriately addresses the legal requirements quite adequately, in my opinion. So I am in support, and I will be voting for this. Or I think it is just to be noted, actually. So I don't need to vote. It is unfortunate that the COVID pandemic has put pressure on delivering the action points in our equalities plan, but it cannot be helped, and the crisis has affected all businesses, individuals and walks of life. However, I do think that it is doubly important to have and exercise a policy like this during such times, even more so whilst we're under pressure and corners can be cut and people are in even more need of our help as a council, as explained at 5.3 on page 40. Also on page 40, I was disappointed to read that hate crimes have been increased across Leicestershire and ourselves as well, with a 33% increase in Melton, with 62% being race-related. But however, I am pleased to see the emergence of the Equalities Steering Group and its responsibility for monitoring the council's performance against the Single Equality Scheme, with progress being made on most action points. So, you know, we've done really well, really, under the circumstances of resources being distracted. We've been under a lot of pressure, but we have actually made headway. So this is good, really, in my opinion. Indeed, it's a wonderful, full and comprehensive list of these action points, Appendix 1 on page 45. So yeah, most impressive. And finally, I'm really pleased to see the equalities training is to be included in the member development programme for this coming year, as we have had this type of training before, but we're really ready for this again. And I'm just pleased to see that on the list of things to be done. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Douglas. I can't see any other hands raised, so I confirm that no members or officers are indicating a request to speak, and to then confirm that the recommendation has been moved and seconded and noted, and that no vote will be taken. The pay policy statement. There is a change.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, may I just interrupt before you move on to the pay policy statement? I believe that Councillor Brown declared an interest in this item, and so I will move him across into the attendees for the duration of this item.
Mr. Mayor, I'll leave the meeting at this stage. I don't think there's any other business after this.
Last item.
Okay, sure.
Thank you very much,
Natasha.
Thank you. So, Mrs. Councillor Bell, you will notice that there has been a change in recommendation, which has come through and is on your sheet rather than from the actual agenda. It has changed. Councillor de Bell will talk on that. So, Councillor de Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members, Section 38 of the Localism Act 2011 sets out a legal requirement for local authorities to publish an annual pay policy statement on its website by the 1st of April each year. Additionally, Section 40 of the Act sets out guidance as to what the core requirements of the statement should be, and they are to show the method by which salaries of all employees are determined, to detail and the level of remuneration of the council's most senior employees, the remuneration of the council's lowest paid employees, and the relationship between the remuneration of chief officers and those employees who are not chief officers. Mr. Mayor, the pay policy statement before us meets all those requirements and additionally demonstrates that Melton Borough Council is committed to making sure that its remuneration, pay and benefits package is competitive, fair and equitable in order to attract and retain the best staff for the relevant positions and to deliver the best possible service to the public it serves, of course. So against that background, Mr. Mayor, I move on the recommendations at 1, that the council approves the attached pay policy statement for 2021-22 at Appendix A, and 2, approves publication of the statement on the council's website.
Thank you, Councillor de Bell. Councillor Alston, will you second?
Yeah, very pleased to second, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. I can't see any hands being raised, so I will hand over to the Chief Executive for the vote.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, members, if I can ask you to indicate for, against or abstention, please. Councillor Baines, Councillor Binlos and Councillor Brown are all absent. Councillor Carter.
For.
Councillor Chandler.
For.
Councillor Child.
For.
Councillor Cumbers.
For.
Councillor de Burle.
For.
Councillor Douglas.
For.
Councillor Evans.
For.
Councillor Faulkner.
For.
Councillor Fisher.
For.
Councillor Jones.
For.
Councillor Glancy.
For.
Councillor Graham.
For.
Councillor Hewson.
For.
Councillor Higgins.
For.
Councillor Holmes.
For.
Thank you, Councillor Holmes. Councillor Illingworth.
For.
For. Yeah.
Councillor Lumley is absent. Councillor Orson.
For.
Councillor Pearson.
For.
Councillor Posnetz.
For.
Councillor Pritchett.
For.
Councillor Smith is absent. Councillor Steadman.
For.
Councillor Wilkinson.
For.
Councillor Wood.
For.
Mr. Mayor, that is 23-4.
Right, thank you very much. That is carried unanimously by 23 votes. Item 12, recommendations, reports from committees. There are no recommendations or reports from committees received. So that concludes our meeting. Thank you all, councillors, very much. I imagine probably our next council meeting will be the AGM. And we will wait to see how we can meet and if some of us can meet or in person or not. But in the meantime, have a very happy Easter. And let's hope that we can meet again before too long. Thank you very much.
Councillor Orson does have his hand raised before. Sorry, I tried to get him before you closed the meeting.
Right. Well,
Yeah,
I
it
can't
won't
see him.
take a second or
Councillor
two.
Orson, yep.
Mr. Mayor, and I know it is an issue you won't mind me raising at this late moment, and there's no need for anyone to reply tonight. It's quite simply, as almost certainly we'll be heading for the Mayor Making at the May meeting. At this moment in time, we have no one to put into the position of Deputy Mayor. So if people who have an interest in becoming Deputy Mayor in May or the next Mayor Making, if they could please just drop me an email, that would be great. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Not at all. And if anybody does want to discuss it or what it involves or anything else, by all means, feel free to contact me as well.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all very much and have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you.